It's Monday and we are on week 1 of unit 16, and this unit we will cover pets. Our goals for this unit is to get children thinking about animals and classifying animals, from farm animals to jungle animals to even animals that we can keep in our house as pets. Even if you don't have a pet in your own home, this unit will still be a great way to introduce the idea of owning a pet and how to care for a pet. As always, we are going to use easy to prep yet engaging activities using supplies from around your home, and we are going to build those foundations for math, science, and language skills. And if you don't have the same supplies in your house that we are using here, you will easily find a substitution within your own home. If you just happen to stumble upon this video, we'll be sure to link our playlist so you can catch us from the start of Unit 1 on Week 1. And we will be sure to list all of the supplies and books that we are going to use this week in the description below. So after your morning circle time or calendar routine, then you definitely want to start off with the poem and song that is included for this unit, which I will include a screenshot of for you. And then you want to introduce the topic by asking a question such as, what is a pet? Or what pets do you know? Then you're going to want to get into today's read aloud, which is what pet should I get? And as always, you are encouraged to do a picture walk through the book first, trying to guess what's going to happen with your kiddo before you do the actual read aloud. Which also includes our things to talk about is simply to just make predictions with your kid about the book. Now this one's a little bit tricky because it is a Dr. Seuss book, and Dr. Seuss is very fictional and very imaginative and is a little confusing in my opinion for this topic because they do make up animals and characters and names for these animals and characters, but we do enjoy the silliness of Dr. Seuss. And of course the rhyming. So our learning activity today is sorting and classifying animals. So get out those toy animals, whether they're plastic toys, bath toys, stuffed animals, and you want to have your kiddo sort out the animals from pets and animals that are not pets. If you need to, you can even take this a step further and classify the farm animals, the pet animals, the jungle animals, or whatever animals you have on hand. As you're sorting through these animals, talk about why certain animals are not pets and talk about what kind of care pets will need. Our easy activity for the day is hiding pets or finding pets. Get out that bin and get out whatever dry material you want to use and bury those pets in that bin and then have your kiddo dig them out. Give them scoops or whatever tools they are used to having, or some new tools for their sensory bin, and you can even kind of make it like a hide and go seek if you wish. So today we just kind of combined everything. We started off with watching the book, and we did only watch it once through, and then what I had done is just buried some animals, brought out some different animals and buried them in our sandbox, so when we went out there that was what she would find right away. But really most of our conversation happened in the house right after our book. We talked about how there were some fictional pets in the book and some real pets in the book. We grabbed our book called Pets and counted how many we saw in the story that were in the physical book that we had. And then we started talking about wild animals and pets because there are some crossovers. Behind our home there is a nice big ravine or creek, and that brings geese and ducks and heron, and we have some relatives that have ducks and chickens that are pets, but they live outside, but they're still cared for. So there was some really good conversation between the different types of pets that you can have, because there are so many different types of pets that people can own. We personally only have a cat. We talked about pets that we might have one day and how different pets would need different care and how they live differently within our home. It was a really, really good conversation, and I wish that I would have videoed it, but you know, it just kind of happened. And we also lucked out today on our morning walk. We met 2 new dogs to us, though they're not new to the neighborhood, which is kind of surprising because we have a very small walking neighborhood, and I didn't think there was any dogs we hadn't at least seen before, if not have already met. So of course there is our practical life just popping right up in this program, and we got to meet 2 new dogs on our walk today, which was fantastic for this unit. And that's all for today. Tuesday. So after your morning routine, you want to continue with review questions such as, how would you care for a pet? This one's a little vague, so it can kind of go any way depending on the type of pet that your kiddo might be thinking about. Then you want to get into today's read aloud, which is simply a repeat of yesterday's. And then for our things to talk about, we are going to introduce the letter D. So you want to have this written in both upper and lower case on a whiteboard, chalkboard, piece of paper, whatever you've got. Be sure to go over the sound this letter makes and include a few familiar words beginning with this letter. Our learning activity today is joining goldfish. So you're going to need some goldfish and a few playing cards. As you're preparing for this activity, ask some questions such as, how would you care for a fish? Or how is a fish different from a dog? So once you're done discussing the fish and the dogs, then you are going to want to use the goldfish to model number groups. So you're going to need cards numbered 2 through 10. Then you're going to remove numbers 2 and 3 and put them in a separate pile from the other 4 through 10 numbers. Then you're going to flip over one card from each pile. So you may get, for example, the number 2 and then the number 7. So have your kiddo count out 2 goldfish first and then count out 7 goldfish and then count all the goldfish together. Still, we are not looking for perfection with this activity. We are simply getting them used to counting 2 different groups individually and then counting them all together. And I'm gonna tell you, this one's tricky because they're gonna eat a lot of the goldfish that they're counting. So make sure you have a lot extra. For this one, we kind of did it backwards. It started out all on its own. As I made lunch, I had given Nola and Colton each a sandwich that was cut into 4 squares. And as I was putting everything away in the kitchen, from around the corner, Nola had shouted out over her shoulder, "Hey Mom, Colton has 4 sandwiches and I have 4 sandwiches and together we have 8. It gets better. Then she says, "Colton's already eaten one, so now we only have 7. Well, I think she gets it. But we still carried on with the goldfish a little bit later in that day, and what I had done is taken 3 small groups instead of just 2. I didn't even bother using the cards because I found lately that as soon as I try to introduce that aspect, 0 interest is had. So I just lifted up the goldfish. We each had a little pile. We counted out how many we each had, and then we counted them all together, and then Colton just ate all of his off the table, so we then counted how many were left after that, and we just kind of kept eating some and counting down until we had none left. And we managed to do this with 0 resistance. Our easy activity for the day is an alphabet hunt. So it is suggested in the program that you go into your pantry and search for the letter D. So again, just kind of going on what's been working for us lately, we use the shout it out method. So after we talked about the letter D, I told Nola whenever she spots a letter D that day, whether it be on a book, on a show, on clothing, on a sign, in the pantry, wherever she sees it, I want her to yell at the top of her lungs, "I found a D!" Because, you know, like I had mentioned earlier, usually they're told to be quiet and inside voices and we don't speak that loud. So this just gives them an opportunity to use those pipes that they got and let it all out with good reasoning behind it. So we've had a few right off the bat because it's very exciting, and then they just kind of dwindle off, and then randomly throughout the day you'll just hear her yell, "She found a letter D," and that's all for the day. Wednesday, so after you're done your morning circle time or calendar routine, of course along with the poem and song that is included with this unit, that's when we got into today's read aloud, which is called But No Elephants. As always, you're encouraged to do a picture walkthrough first before you do an actual read aloud with your kiddo. So we watched this book only one time through, although it was very entertaining, and Noel had quite an easy time doing a little bit of recap and recall of the pets that were introduced in this book and what they did. Which brings us to our things to talk about, which is to simply talk about why some animals would make good pets and why other animals might not. Then our review question for the day is, what type of pet would you like to own? What kind of pet would you like to own aside from our Jazzy?
A sea turtle.
A sea turtle? Do you think a turtle would make a good pet?
Yes.
Do you think it would be easy to care for or a little bit hard to care for?
A bit easy to care for.
I think it would be a bit easy. I think it would just stay in a tank.
Yeah.
So after Nola had answered this question for me, we got right into today's activity. Well, half of today's activities. Our learning activity for the day is to be measuring some of our stuffed animal pets. So get out some Legos, Duplos, whatever type of building blocks you have. Get out some of your favorite stuffed animals and start measuring. So you want to help them with the first one and then kind of let them go from there and just give them help where it's needed. Help them count how many blocks each one is, and of course you want to be touching the blocks as you're counting them, and just kind of sit back and let them go. zero interest in this. As I had kind of suspected, she usually isn't drawn too much to activities like this, but our easy activity for the day is to make a pet carrier for their favorite stuffed animal. So get a brown cardboard box or really whatever you've got. Cut out some windows, a door, maybe make a handle, and just give your child a lot of arts and crafts supplies and let them decorate this carrier. So after our discussion about the sea turtle, how she would like to have one, she wanted to make one, of course. So we got out the paper, we made the sea turtle, and then I thought we wouldn't really have a carrier for a turtle, we would make an aquarium for the turtle. So that's what we got right into. We took the box and I was just gonna cut it out so that we could glue some paper down on the inside to emulate the ocean. So we didn't have to wait around all day for paint to dry because I thought that we might lose some interest by doing that. Nola remembered that we had some sea stickers in the drawer, which I didn't think were really there, but of course she was right. So she had everything that she wanted in there except for a narwhal. She was a little disappointed there was no narwhal sticker, but she got over it pretty quickly. About Swimmy's home.
It's full of lots of mermaids and all kinds of animals. I know.
Sea animals and mermaids. What kind of sea animals do we have in here?
A whale and fish, all types of fish, and some underwater plants, and some underwater gas, and then a couple turtles, and a couple plants, and some shells.
Yeah,
And
oh, I see.
there-
Swimmy has a shell collection right on his arms and legs, huh?
Yeah. And
Cool.
he's eating a snack, and after a snack, they're gonna play a game of bubbles and touch two mermaids.
That sounds so much fun. She really enjoyed this, and we're absolutely putting this up in her room because this is her new pet and his name is Swimmy. And that's all for today. Thursday. So after you complete your morning routine, then our review question for the day is, do you think a tiger would make a good pet? Do you think a tiger would make a good pet?
No!
No, why wouldn't a tiger make a good pet?
Wild!
It's wild and it's
Big!
big. And he has
Claw!
and big,
Teeth.
and I bet you he eats a lot.
Yes.
Today's read aloud is simply a repeat of yesterday's, and you want to help your child identify what's happening on each page. For our things to talk about today, you want to revisit the letter D, so again, have it written out, go over the sound that it makes, and some familiar words beginning with this letter. Then go back through the read aloud and try to find a couple of upper and lowercase d's on just a few pages. Our learning activity for the day is comparing goldfish. So you want to grab a couple of dice and perhaps mark out a couple of squares with some masking tape or different colored pieces of paper and have your child roll a dice, then you roll a die, and then you count out the goldfish, put them in two separate piles, and then compare which one has more and which one has less. If you need to make this a little bit harder, then you might want to use 2 dice per person. As always, make sure you are counting out the goldfish, touching each one as you count. With the first round of this activity, we used 2 dice each, we rolled them, we counted, we separated, and then we compared more or less. After the first round, I could see that Nola was ready to get up out of her chair and take off, so we quickly decided to switch it up a little bit, where all 3 of us, because Colton was participating as always, we each had a die. We each gave it a roll, we each counted out our goldfish, and then we compared the 3 piles together to figure out who had the most, who had the least, and who was left in the middle. This lasted a couple of rounds. All in all, the activity only lasted a few minutes, but we really enjoyed it because those goldfish are tasty little suckers. Our easy activity for the day is a veterinarian dramatic play. So get out that doctor set if you have one, get a couple of those stuffed animals, perhaps their favorite ones, and let's play veterinarian. Talk about how each animal might need a little bit of different care, how you would care for them, and how you would just make them feel better if they weren't feeling too well. This was a fairly easy one, but kind of not. We love playing doctor around here, but Nola usually prefers to be the patient rather than the doctor. But after a little bit, I got her to participate on both sides of this activity. Friday. So after your morning calendar or circle time routine, along with the poem and song that is included with this unit, You want to get into today's Read Aloud, which is a repeat from earlier in the week called But No Elephants. Make sure you point out the author and illustrator if you have that information. For our things to talk about today, you want to help your child recap and recall not just the story, but with a few questions, such as why do people have pets? How do people care for pets? And what kind of animals make good pets? Our learning activity for the day is shape art pets. So grab some paper plates and construction paper. First decide with your kiddo what pets they want to make. Then you're gonna help them cut out shapes, or you can cut the shapes out for them, and perhaps paint your paper plates or color them and help them piece together the shapes that would make a face of the pets that they want to make. And you want to make sure you're really allowing your child to put these pets together, even though it may not be perfect. Their ears might be off, the nose might be too high. Let them just have at her. So for this activity, we never really got to this today. Nola just really wasn't interested. She was too caught up in her pet turtle, Swimmy. Since we already basically did this activity earlier in the week, she is totally in love. Swimmy is her new best friend. He's up in her room at night, he's downstairs with us during the day, and she just continually goes back to feeding him and pretending to play with them, and she just really is enjoying this turtle. Our easy activity for the day and the last one for the week is to walk a pet. So whether this be one of the pets you have just put together with your construction paper and plates, or whether it's a stuffed animal, make up a leash somehow, string or yarn, or perhaps you have a real leash on hand, and let them walk their little pet around the house or outside even if you'd like to. And while you do this, you want to talk about why particular pets may need to go for walks. Again, we didn't really even get into this one today. We mostly just played with the nest that we had brought down yesterday. We left that one out. Both of the kids are really enjoying playing with that down here in our living room. We do play with this nest a lot upstairs in Nola's room, as that's where the maternity pillow and all those stuffed animals are stored. But they're really having a great time downstairs and trying to get the cat to come in the nest with them, but she's not too interested. So that's it for the day, and that is it for the week. Another fantastic week as always. We had a really good time with a lot of these activities. If you like this video, then please show us and give us a thumbs up, or perhaps share it with somebody else you may think it will enjoy it as well, or even consider subscribing. Thanks.